today we're talking about within the construct of magic and magical practices is the imposter syndrome. Now, I first became familiar with this term more when I was working like in like sort of the general tech industry and stuff like that, and or project management, office work. Anyways, so the premise of imposter syndrome, if you are unfamiliar with it, is that people believe that they just don't deserve their achievements, and they don't feel they're as incompetent, or they don't feel as competent or intelligent as other people think. And that, oh no, soon enough, people are going to discover we're full of shit and we don't know what we're doing. And a lot of times, people who are highly accomplished have suffer from imposter syndrome. Um, and this does not preclude them from having numerous academic degrees or high positions, or being very well regarded in their work communities. So yeah, that's a whole thing, and it's perfectly natural. And you might be surprised that people you look up to, well renowned occult authors and purveyors of things, are like have that fear of that lack of confidence sometimes in what they do. Like every day, like I have at least one little moment where I'm just like, I'm completely full of shit. I know it. I'm just why like I don't know. I'm just full of shit. Um, so why do we feel this way? Even when we have an abundance of anecdotal evidence, even though we've got degrees and certificates saying, "Hey, this kid knows what she's doing," um, and like acknowledging that we do know what we're doing, but we still have that those areas in which we feel like, for whatever reason, and sometimes there are specific reasons. Like, I mean, if you are someone who works in any industry, you've probably dealt with um, terrible bosses, or coworkers, or people who talk down to you and treat you like you're absolute crap, because you made a grammatical error on something, or a spelling mistake, or you didn't do this. Like, I remember explaining at one point in time this to a friend of mine who found this to be the most convoluted and amusing thing in the known universe at the time. I was like, well, so I was working in fundraising, so I used to have to write acknowledgement letters like, "Dear so and so, thank you for your $50 donation to the college," but I couldn't write it as if it was coming from me. I had to write this as if I was my boss writing it for the president of the college. Have you ever tried to do that? Write for how someone else would write for someone else? Not as easy as it sounds. And my boss at that time had been a former like English teacher, and was constantly rubbing my nose in the fact that I was a terrible writer, that I couldn't capture the completely lifeless Weetabix cracker taupe pallor of the most uninteresting letters you could write to anyone using any type of language. Like, if I want to like slit my wrists on the paper because I'm bored to death, anyways. But it took a lot. It was a lot of being beaten down about my writing skills. So thanks, bitch. It's like I am very self conscious when it comes to my writing because of that. And that's sometimes where the origins of things go, is if you're told you're shitty at something long enough, even though you're not, you're going to start believing you're shitty at that, and then you're going to start thinking, questioning other things too. And sometimes people just suck and they take their sucking out on you. So anyways, And some of it does come down to your personality traits. Like, I know I come across as wildly confident to a lot of people, and I am here to assure you I am not at all. I mean, I am to some extent, but I'm probably not as confident as I come across. Um, and some of that for me just might be that I mask it well, because with being late diagnosed autistic is that a lot of a lot of how to human I had to learn from like mimicry. So like being able to look at how confident people carry themselves or how they talk or the gestures they do, I was able to do it that way. While inside I'm like, ah. So some of your personality construct, like if you're anxious, if you're just normally an anxious person, is also going to feed into whether or not you're um, feeling any sense of the imposter syndrome. And it is fairly common. Um, it's interesting sometimes that the things that call attention to your imposter syndrome is like when people laud you for your intelligence or your success or how awesome you are, which would seem antithetical, because that would seem like it would be like, hey, okay, maybe it's all in my head that I'm just like, being this way, but sometimes that can trigger it as well. It's unintentional, but like imagine receiving an award and then sitting there thinking, Jesus shit, all these other people deserve this award that more than I did. What the fuck did I do? I'm completely full of crap. I don't know what I'm doing. That kind of thing. So you'll question your criticism. And I'm getting to the point at which I'm hoping you're starting to see why I'm talking about this in terms of your magical practice. Because doesn't some of this sound familiar? Now imposter syndrome's not a psychiatric condition or anything like that. Um, it's and what when you're looking demographically, there are some studies that indicate where women are a little more susceptible to imposter syndrome than men, but it's not to say that men don't, on the gender dynamics and stuff like that. And anyone that is in a already sort of either protected class or marginalized community, a lot of times will be in that have a higher susceptibility rate. It's a very like some not all kind of thing. I know for me, like some of the imposter syndrome things is kind of like it stems from some weird internalized perfectionism. Um, but it's not across for me. It's not across the board, because sometimes I'll just be like, well, this label is on slightly skewed. Meh. It's more perfectionism of how I'm doing something versus it's hard to explain, because my house is not the shining example of perfectionism, because I'm like barely functional human adult on most days, but I still have. I think it's perfectionism more in the sense of fear of doing something wrong, a fear of failing to meet expectations. So, and those fears can be very real. And like I mentioned with with the writing thing with my boss before, it was just I worked there for 9.5 years. I dealt with this person for at least 7 or 8 of them, probably maybe 8 before she retired, beating into me that I was a terrible writer and that I should smile more in the morning. Here's my smile. Anywho, so you can overcome imposter syndrome, but part of it is becoming aware that it exists in the first place. So it's a good example of this is not measuring yourself against others. like for me, because I mean, I've struggled with my weight because of metabolic issues due to medications I was on for like the past almost 30 years now. And I realized that I view myself as looking like Jabba the Hutt, whether I'm 120 pounds or 220 pounds. I view I look at myself like it's not a matter of, oh, I need to lose weight and then I'll feel better and then I won't have, no, I'm just going to, because I'm comparing myself to all my, because it was years of comparing myself to all my teeny tiny little, petite friends. I'm like, I'm 5'9". I have a broad shoulder span. I am Ukrainian, built like a tractor. I can't get away from my genetics. So, yeah, kind of gal that was built to haul a tractor. Anyways, so I mean, I think like some of it in the terms of going and getting past the imposter syndrome that may be holding you back in your magical practices stems from being kind to yourself, showing yourself kindness, being patient. I know that's easier said than done because I am not a patient person. Um, like, I just did the spell. Why isn't it working yet? Why isn't it working yet? Ah! So some of that, and then it's hard not to compare yourself to people, but like, you know, how do I compare myself to someone who is, been doing this 20 years longer than me, or someone who has written 100 books, or someone, who has a much larger platform and 100,000 followers or something like that, or subscribers. It's kind of like I'm doing my own thing. I'm getting there. Of course, you can draw inspiration and ideas, but it's when you compare yourself in, oh, wow, this person has 20,000 subs and I'm only at like 3,000. I'm never going to get there. I'm so fit. It's the negative self-talk that we have around that sometimes. Um, and really looking at those achievements that you made, no matter how small they are, you still achieve something. Like I sit there and think like, okay, I'm crawling closer to hitting 3,000 subs on my channel. And I've worked hard for that. I make a lot of video content, and sometimes I'm like, only 60 people watch this video. I'm like, I suck. Only 40 people watch this video. Oh, yeah, that video has 18,000 views over there. Why does that video have 18,000 views? It's not that great of a video. But yet, 18,000 people watch this video? Why? I mean, much better content than that only got 60 views. So I end up looping around in this for a while. But then, I kind of look at, sometimes analytics can help snap you out of them. Like, well, people have been watching my stuff for the equivalent of, when you look at the total view hours or something, I'm like, wow, people spent 9,000 hours watching this thing. Just like, that's weird. So I think a lot of times, I guess, when it comes to the imposter syndrome, is kind of looking at not only your actions, but like what actions you're putting out there. Like I put a lot on my channel, kind of dispelling people's bullshit sometimes, because there is a lot of bullshit out there that's going to be harmful, that it's going to be causing that type of people to have those doubts in their magical practice. Because when someone's out there being like, oh, well, you don't have any physical tangible empirically presumed results of your magic, well, darling, you have spiritual psychosis. Mm-hmm. Or, oh, well, I work with Lucifer this way, so clearly you're just working with fake Lucifer, your experiences aren't valid, or you're just pretending, cosplaying. Because I get a lot of shitty comments, let me tell you, for things like that, of splaining, you're doing it wrong. No, I'm just doing it differently. I'm doing it in a way that works for me. Like, oh. So, and I go over this a lot more in my accessibility magic series too, is finding what works for you. Maybe I'll put this in the accessibility magic series. I think it's more broad than that, but anyways. Um we really need to be building each other up more than tearing each other down. And there's a lot of that. Sometimes it's deserved, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of shitlords out there that deserve to be torn down. Long as are. The elixir of life. But I'm not going to poo-poo you for or criticize you if you want to do things exactly as it is in the book and expect those results exactly as it is in the book. It's a process for you, and you're going to realize over time how it works doing it your own way. And for you, it may be doing it exactly as it's in the book. For me, that just doesn't work, so I don't do it that way. It doesn't make me any less of witch, an occultist, a magical practitioner, um, to do that. It's that I've built my own ways to do things. And I think everyone should do that. Sure, you can, borrow from any number of things, or, I mean, there's tons of spell books out there, ritual books, incantations, etc. But you can find a practice that works for you. And a lot of that is kind of filtering out that noise that's telling you that you're full of shit, magic isn't real. Or, oh, well, this person had a big fiery snake demon manifest in their yard when they did this ritual. Now I didn't get anything. I can't do magic. So in closing, I know a lot of this is easier said than done when it comes to imposter syndrome. We all probably on some level deal with it. Over time, it does get better. Like I try now to focus more on the positive than the negative, like the one person that's telling me that I'm a piece of crap for whatever reason, versus it's sort of like looking at my Etsy reviews. I'm like, all right, well, I've got, 500 pages of Etsy reviews, most of which are 5-star reviews or positive reviews. Am I going to let the one little 1-star bitch boy review like ruin my day? Probably not. But sometimes it does though. I hate that. It's like, gee, I'm sorry the crystal was too green. You might want to take that up with the planet because I didn't make it. Anyways, because people will complain about weird shit. Like, and not for nothing, we live in a culture and society that just loves to tear each other down over dumb shit. So to make themselves feel better, because I've noticed that I've worked in environments where there were people that the only way they knew how to make themselves look good was by making other people look bad in comparison, but therefore elevating themselves. They didn't know how to elevate themselves by their own methods, by their own manners, by their own work. So they had to tear down everyone around them to make those people small, to make themselves look big. And you have a lot of that in the occult. So those people, I would just at that point go, no, move on. Because I feel like for me, like I'm like, at the end of the day, my sanity and my well-being are worth more. And if someone's gonna be like trying to make themselves look better by making me like in that way or with others, like, ew. Like I can see on one hand, like, I mean, I get asked a lot of times for recommendations for like, is this person a good person to work with, or is this what's your favorite, Etsy store for this or something like that. And sometimes it's a hard question to answer because I have hundreds of vendors I work with for various things. So if you ask me for my favorite crystal shop, there's going to be probably at least, I'm going to give you, because some I have to kind of exclude because you need wholesale accounts for that, which means then you need to have a business or tax ID or something like that. So not going to bother you with that. So Um, Anywho, or if someone is a known grifter, charlatan, not so great actually, passing that information along is probably not that bad or that bad of an idea, because I'd hate to see people get ripped off if by not knowing. So there are exceptions to the rule in that thing, but be yourself, do your thing, have confidence, have faith, and just tune the rest out. It's a work in progress. I'm getting there. But and I hope you feel comfortable knowing a lot of very successful people do suffer from imposter syndrome too. So it's not just you. Anyways, excuse me. Because I was chugging my Dr. Pepper. Anyways, love you all. Don't forget to click like and subscribe. Smash the notification bell to get notifications of when we drop videos. Love y'all.